So, what drew you to Parkland, and in particular, your character, Abraham Zapruder?
Well, I'm interested in American history, and I've always been interested in this event in particular, and so I was very aware of who he was, but I knew nothing about him. But so there was something kind of cool in the idea of playing him, because he's such a strangely anonymous figure, but but so important. And then when I found out about him, I was like, oh well, this is a very interesting man to play.
Right. It's funny that you say that because I thought much the same thing. We've heard for years about the Zapruder film,
Yeah.
and it takes on this heightened sense of awareness way beyond the man.
Totally.
And I didn't know anything about the man.
No, neither did I.
Until this movie.
Yeah.
And it was, quite a revelation to sort of see how he felt and what he went through.
Yeah.
Did you do anything in particular to prepare for the role or researching him beyond
Yeah,
what was on
there's
the
stuff,
page?
there's sort of basic biographical facts about him that are, most of them were in the movie, so it's like I gleaned all those just from the text, and then there's footage of him, and that was really useful, there's interesting footage of him from two different periods of time, the day of the assassination and 3 years later, which were very interesting to watch, and just see him physically and hear his voice was very interesting, and I had a contact through the director, Peter Landesman, with the family, because I didn't really want to get in their faces. They have enough. They've dealt with enough. And so I met them later, and they were very nice. But Peter picked up some interesting things that he would tell me from them. He'd say, oh, they talked about how much he liked to tell jokes, how much he liked music and stuff like that. I was like, that's interesting. So.
Did you feel that, in the movie we get a sense of I had never really thought about the extreme weight that was on his shoulders of having taken that
Neither did I,
film.
really. I know.
And did you get a sense of, sort of how, I'm not for articulating this question very well, the extreme responsibility that he felt and where that came from within him?
I think that he, as I say, I think an interesting aspect of the character doesn't get too deeply delved into, but it's there, is the immigrant thing and the Jewish thing and the sense of responsibility. There's a lot of interesting things there, and but he loved the country the way those immigrants did, and loved the president so much, and he felt guilty. I think, I think he felt guilty for producing this thing that was just going to be awful and disgusting for people to have to see, just repulsive that people are going to have to see this, and he's responsible for this. People shouldn't see this happen to this guy, this amazing man. It's awful, so he felt guilty, I think. Yeah.
One of the things that's interesting about this film is these intertwining or not intertwining, all these different storylines of these people that we've heard about but we don't know a lot about, and getting this backstory. And when I saw the whole cast lined up on stage last night at the premiere,
a lot of people.
That's
not even all of them. That's
know.
like,
A
it's
lot
a
of
small percentage of it.
highly respected, talented actors. But I was reminded, looking at all of you, that very few of you intersect over the course of the movie.
Yeah.
But you did have some scenes with Billy Bob Thornton.
I
Can you
did.
talk about, he isn't here
He's
this
the
week.
one guy. No, he's the one guy who's not. I never met any of these people before. This is the first time I actually met any of the other guys.
Really?
Yeah. And Billy Bob was, I had to deal with him and a couple of the other guys who played the Secret Service. It was like our own little weird small movie for a week. And you would start to think that this was it. This is the movie, because there was nobody else around. So it was really, Billy Bob actually is the only person who goes in all the different venues. He's in all the different parts of the movie. But he was fantastic. He's just a great guy and a great actor. I'd never worked with him before, and he was awesome.
Yeah, he's great in the movie.
He is great.
Peter Landesman, wrote the screenplay and made his directorial debut at this movie. What was it like working with first-time director?
He didn't seem like it.
Yeah.
If you hadn't told me he was first-time director, I wouldn't have thought it. He's super confident. He's a confident guy. He's done a lot of other real stuff in his life, so I think he was prepared. I don't think a movie set, scared him that much. He's done a lot of other really intense things with himself. So I think he was he seemed very comfortable. And he had a ballsy way of going about this thing. It was unstructured deliberately in a lot of ways, and it just kind of see what would happen a lot of the time.
Right. It
Takes
felt
lot
like a
of
very
gut.
distinct style of filmmaking
It
between the
definitely
camera
was.
work. I think that Colin Hanks yesterday described it as he said it was like the camera was a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Did you get that same sense? I mean, I know
Oh, yeah.
in your scenes as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, it was different probably for them, but I think that feeling was common. Yeah, no, definitely. And half the time I'd forget the camera was even there. I mean,
Right.
he's right. I mean, I would just forget about it and have no idea. So he was saying, too, that was great, was you lost the self-consciousness of like, oh, it's my take and my close-up and my...
Right.
And you just forgot about all of that, and you just were doing what you were doing, and they were capturing it as they could. And so it was very interesting. It was almost more like doing a play or
Right.
something, you know?
Right. And you actually had scenes in Dealey Plaza, correct?
Yeah, one day we shot in Dealey Plaza. Yeah,
Did
the
that
first
have
day.
emotional resonance with you?
It was odd. It was very strange. I mean, I've been there before and found it an incredibly strange place. And so there was a very kind of weird, out-of-body sense to think, we're actually going to shoot there.
Right.
And literally stand in the place where the man stood and literally say what he said, and it was very peculiar. It's a weird place to begin with. I mean, it was really cool. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done, but it was odd. It was definitely felt odd.
Did you get any sense of the people of Dallas and I mean, were they aware of what you were doing when you were shooting
Well,
that day?
I mean, there were tourists there
Right.
that morning, and I don't imagine they thought they were going to see some guy running around dressed like Abraham Zapruder, like
Right.
screaming
Right.
with a camera.
Because it's
you
such
know?
an emotional scene.
Yeah, but I think that must have been. I know that I would stop occasionally and realize that there were people sort of standing around watching who were tourists who would come to Dealey Plaza, and now they're like,
Right.
"What the hell are we seeing?
Right.
What is going on over there?" You know, because it was a small little skeleton crew of stuff. It wasn't a big thing. It was just weird, very weird.
What do you hope audiences take away from this movie?
You know, I guess it's just that it's easy to lose sight with when you make things about a historical event like this. You know, all the kind of deep human detail of it, and that's mostly what it is. Especially with this, all the conspiracy stuff kind of flattens it out.
Mm-hmm.
It just turns it into a kind of weird game that you can play, you know, and then you lose sight. All the characters become paper dolls, two-dimensional. They're nothing. They don't matter. You just move them around in this game and try and figure out what's going on. And I feel like this actually completely fills it out again. They're real people, and you know, it gives you back all the actual depth of it. It's deep, and it was mostly made up of these poor suckers who had to muddle through the day.
Right.
You know.